The information provided herein is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, investment, or legal advice. Natural Rewards intends to purchase shares of the company and may have a commercial relationship to supply social media and design services.
Klaus, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance today. Today's the first time we've spoken, and I look forward to hearing more about your plans for the RTO of Rome Resources onto the UK exchanges.
Thanks for having me. Basically, we're pretty close to have the RTO completed. Most of the legal work has been completed. So we think within the next 6 weeks, we're going to be listed. And during that period to the listing, we actively raising money at the moment.
Okay, thanks, Klaus. So let's just set up the basics here. So firstly, you're operating the DRC. You've got a project about 8 kilometers from Alphamin Resources, who have the world's highest grade tin mine. Alphamin are also a major low-cost producer listed on the TSX and valued around 1.4 billion Canadian dollars. And I think it gets more interesting. You are actually the founder and former chairman of Alphamin. So you think that Rome might potentially be sitting on something similar. So essentially, this could be you doing it again. Is that right? You guys have had a lot of experience in the DRC with, prolific discoverers of, potentially world-class projects. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, in summary, the Alphamin project, when we put it together in 2013-14, that looked as being a very high-grade deposit already way back, and we drilled it out over 3-4 years, and then had Denham Capital coming in to put in the money for that. And they later on took over and also put in the plant and etc. on site. Mark and I, we are explorers, and we certainly looking around since 24 years in the DRC now for trying to find world-class deposits. And we had been quite lucky there over the last 20 years. The project which we picked up to the north of BC, which was the name before, but now it's Empama North and Empama South in Alphamin, has the same hallmarks. We spent around $4 million Canadian privately there before we listed it, and discovered several anomalies. And the footprints of those anomalies are 2-3 times bigger than Alphamin. And the whole team which worked for Alphamin is also working for us at the moment. So we think it could be something similar or even better.
Okay, brilliant. Look, you've also had a lot of other big success stories in the DRC, as well as Alphamin, which obviously is one of the largest tin producers in the world. Moto Gold Mines, could you tell us a little bit about that? I think you had a very successful exit there, and now it belongs to Barrick.
Yeah, we started in the DRC around 2000 when nobody went there, and we looked at various projects there, and the Moto one stood out. And during 2002 and 3, suddenly I was able to raise money because the gold price was picking up, and we acquired it. And within 4 years, we had 21 million ounces there discovered. So it's very rewarding project. And then we're taken over by Randgold, and later on Barrick took Randgold over, and now it's the Kibali mine, which is one of the biggest gold projects in Africa, makes a lot of money for Barrick, and is a world-class deposit in the end. It's not only the gold one. We had also Tiger Resources, which was then a copper producer later. Also in 2003, we founded that. So we have been very active since 2001, 2002 in the DRC.
Where did you list Moto out of interest? I don't think it says here in your presentation. It said your exit was 500 million USD to before they became Barrick.
I took over a small company which was called Erongo, and they had $3 million. So I had market cap of $3 million on the ASX, and that's where we went at the Moto project in. And then we raised quite a fair bit of money in Canada, very little in London at that point in time. But yeah, I mean, in Australia, it was difficult to raise money at the point in time. But most of the money was raised on the TSX and in Germany or in Europe in general.
Okay, so I understand yourself and most of the investors in in Rome are currently European based, but your listing is on the TSX. Why did you do that? Did you just want to follow exactly in Alphamin's footsteps, or?
I mean, Alphamin never promote, or well, let's put it that way. Denham never came out and promoted Alphamin really. When I left, the share price was 70 cents, and then the share price slipped later down to 10 cents. And most of the capital raisings were done at 15 cents. And Denham basically took most of the capital raising themselves. So it wasn't particular because of the TSX, but I had a shell there which was suspended for 7 years, and we knew the people there. They were happy to give it to us. So usually to get a shell to vend in DRC assets, it's not that easy if the market is very buoyant for the junior resources sector. That's the only reason. And then we decided later on, because the tin market in Canada is not, what do you call it, very sexy. Let's call it sexy. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants to put money in. There's some private investors which are put in Canada from several broking firms, but major institutions or fund managers were not that keen on tin in general. And then the tin price was also going down to 15,000 way back when we started. So it was a lot easier to take a shell and then have a public audience through that on the TSX.
Okay. Well, look, the timing for tin's probably for progressing any tin project right now could be perfect, I think. And maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that. The tin market's quite strong, but it's widely predicted to go from strength to strength. I see commentary on it all the time from North American and Australian mining commentators. Some of our listeners might be familiar with the Tin Barons hashtag, and I think there's, a lot of it isn't comedy, but there's some very serious analysis out there. So, obviously you're sitting on what could be another world-class discovery near another, near an established tin mine. Talk about tin a little bit, please.
Yeah, but as you said already, the market has turned for tin again. I mean, if the price comes always down to 15 or 20,000, there is only 2 mines in the world who are profitable at around 15,000, and that's Alphamin and then another company or another project which is called San Rafael in Peru. But everything else under 20,000 US is uneconomic. Everybody makes losses. So the tin price will not stay long under 20. And you could see, it moved up to 35,000 US and very, very quickly again. And the demand has picked up too. So I think, I don't want to say, 100,000 or 200,000, but 40, 50,000, certainly average price over the next 2-3 years is doable. As there is nothing coming on stream. If you look at Australia, they're producing 0.1%, Namibia 0.1 or 0.2%. And those projects, they're very small too. And then there's a couple of, I think in the UK too, Cornish. I mean, they're also very tiny. There may be 5,000 tons or 10,000 tons who can come on stream there. So it's certainly underpinned by the demand and then also by a lack of projects.
Okay, so I mean, yeah, there's a lot of chat about tin. I think I heard it's just been described as a glue which keeps the technology revolution together. It's used in computer chipboards and solder, etc. And they've now, I believe, in the EU banned lead from being used on microchips and computer boards, etc. So yeah, look, big opportunity there. There's and especially when the underlying commodity is widely predicted to go higher. So let's get into the projects now a little bit. I mean, this isn't virgin exploration. You've already drilled a few thousand meters of at least 2 of your projects, and I think it gets really interesting. Now you've got the Bizet North Tin Project, and within there, Mount Agoma and the Kalai prospect. And you've de-risked them considerably. There's grades here that normal companies globally would salivate. The investors, I mean, these things are monstrous hits. You've got copper, you've got tin, and you've got grades of 3.5%, 4%, decent intersections, not too far from surface. Could you just maybe start on the license opportunity, Bizet North, and maybe drill down into the two prospects after that, please?
Yeah, those licenses, we focused on the ridges there, which are originating out of the intruding granite and the fluids which came up there. And all the soil anomalies, which you can see in the PowerPoint presentation, they're all in situ, on ridges, so they're not transported, so they're real. 2-3 kilometers long, and we drilled a few holes, and all the holes which we drilled, they are intercepted mineralization. I mean, on Mont Argoma, it's a different mineralization system, or I'd say it's the tin usually falls out at higher temperatures, and then copper, zinc, and then lead falls out with lower temperatures on the surface, on higher levels, while the Kalai area is deeper down and has only tin, no other metals associated with it. We think, that we are onto something like the Peru project, which is San Rafael, which was started as a copper mine, and then became one of the highest grade tin mines in the world at depth. And that's a typical system of the mineralization there, which you find in those locations, where the tin occurs at deeper levels, and then copper and zinc falls out at higher levels. But as you mentioned already, 40 meters at 3.5% copper. In Australia, that company would be, just with that intercept, would be 250 million market cap overnight. You don't find that in Australia. You're already happy, if you have 30-40 meters at 0.3, then you're already celebrating there. Yeah. So the grade certainly in the DRC is king, and we are pretty certain that with the first drill holes which we drilled on the prospect there, we are more advanced really than when we started at Alphamin way back in 2013, because the first 7 holes we didn't intersect anything there. Nothing. There was nothing in the drill core, not even 0.1%. So it shows, that there is a big ore body there. We just have to make sure that we drill it out properly. And we think, with the money we're raising at the moment, that by Q4 this year, we will have a resource on Kalai and Mont Argoma.
Yeah, you've de-risked this significantly. I mean, these hits are amazing, and you've got zinc in there as well. I'm looking at one 90 meters at 4% as well. So this system looks very, very interesting. And you haven't, and all your first holes have hit, right? So this is going to get quite interesting. I think, can we talk about some of the risks here as well? I mean, the junior side of the mining sector always carries more risk in financial, geological, or project related. And in this case, being a DRC, I think we've also got to touch upon the jurisdictional risk. I mean, this is high risk yet high reward kind of stuff, Klaus. Could you please go through and tell us about how you, as a management team, are approaching mitigating some of those risks for investors?
Well, I mean, as you already mentioned earlier, we were there since 24 years. We have never had any major issues there. I mean, political issues you have everywhere in every country. Australia, they're different. Native title, you can't access the ground because you lost the court case. And then what is the most important thing for us as geologists is the geological risk in the DRC is virtually zero. While, in Australia, it's 99% risk to find something. And you're competing against 2,800 juniors there. While in the DRC, that's only us. There is no other juniors there. Very rarely, in a boom time, sometimes some come in, but they usually vanish very quickly and don't stay there for long periods. That you lose. I never lost the project. I had problems with motor gold mines, which is typical. When you find something big, then people start looking at why has the state not got that project? Why does have motor gold mines that project? It's in the DRC. We should have it. But there are a lot of people forget. You have to spend $200 million to actually delineate everything, and it's not that the DRC has that much money, the state itself, and not even the know-how. So at the end of the day, for us, the risk is very, very low for us. We know everybody there. We have no problems there. In these 2 projects, we have also no state involved. So, for example, in other projects which we had before, like Sokimo, that was in Motor Gold Mines, that's a state gold mining company. They had a 30% stake, and then you have to play politics or every month or every 2 months or 3 months, and just try to keep everything on an even keel.
Okay. What about the recent coup? I've got to ask about that. That was international headlines. I know that it was easily squashed. But could you touch upon that and the rebel movement M23 to the east of the country as well?
Yeah. I mean, when I was there, I mean, even with Kabila Senior and Kabila Junior, there were always some issues in the city there in Kinshasa, but that always was sorted very quickly. So I'm not that concerned about that. I mean, at the end of the day, Felix Tshisekedi, he's the second. He is already running now in the second term. We never had any issues there, so I don't think that's a major headache. Then M23, I mean, I don't rate it as an army. I mean, there's some 20 or 50 people, you know, which are gangsters more or less in the jungle. But I mean, if you look at the locations, you know, if you look where they are, if that's 500 kilometers away, that takes you a month through the jungle to get from A to B. So they never interfered with any of our projects. And actually, the infrastructure in the northeast is actually better, and we never seen any rebels here.
Okay, what about the what about artisanals on the working in the area as well? Do you have
because that area which we picked up there was completely undeveloped, we had probably 10 or 20 artisanals on that side. But the thing is, you know, if the tin market goes from 40,000-50,000 US down to 10 or 15,000, which it did, then those guys will vanish too, because they can't make money. It's a hard job to carry tin through the jungle for 20 kilometers, and there has to be a very, very high price to attract them. And as we are operating there for a long time, or Jamie, our exploration manager, he drilled out Alphaman's project. We know most of the people there, and what we done, you know, when we built the houses and the camp and core shed and everything else, we just employed all of them. And we keep on the payroll, and that they're more after sustainable income anyway, rather than having a good year and then 3 years nothing.
Okay, thanks, Klaus. What about your longer term vision here? I mean, you complete this fundraise, come on to AIM, and you're going to get straight into drilling, I would imagine. But what would you like to do after your maiden resource? Would you like to just continue drilling this thing out, or have you got plans to go through the study cycle into production? Because I mean, I'm presuming it's the geology is going to be quite similar to something that's already proven with Alphaman's resource as well.
Yeah. Historically, what I've historically done, I either sold the project or changed the management when it's close to production. We're usually quite happy to go to PFS or BFS, but at that stage, then you need a lot of employees. And Mark and I, we don't have much people we work with. We work with the same people since 30 years. And once the company gets too big, then we usually move on, because we don't have all these management levels. You know, we're just Mark and myself and one or two geologists on site. We make the decision without board meetings, etc., etc. So we're basically very independent on that. But you know, once you get to PFS and BFS, you need mining engineers, you need layers and structures in the company. Then I usually get somebody there who's experienced in that and who likes bringing projects into production.
Okay, right. So the short-term plan and the medium is certainly exploration focused. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Get a maiden resource out by Q4 or early January, or depending on how everything works out. And then when the results look good, then we will certainly get more drill rigs on site, drill out the resource to an inferred, or from an inferred to a measured resource, and then do a PFS on it. And if we find somebody there, a strategic partner, I've got some contacts in Asia, they're interested too. I mean, as you know, Myanmar and Malaysia and Indonesia, the grades are also very low now, so they're looking around too. Malaysian tin smelter was a stakeholder also in Alphamin at one stage. So there's interest out there by some other companies or major companies to look at it. But at this stage, we don't look for a partner. That's too early, and it would be too cheap to give everything away now already.
Right. Yeah, no, of course. Right. You can just keep demonstrating how good the asset is, I guess.
Yeah.
So talk about timing. So when do you expect to be listed, and what's your how much are you looking to raise? I think it's 4 million What's your market cap intended to be? And would you take more than 4 million?
Yeah, we would probably take another 2 more if it's available. That would then get us through to middle of next year and maybe have a bigger resource by then too with that money. And then you always, if money is on the table, you have to look at it basically. If you're a junior explorer, you can't say, oh, we don't need that money now. So you have to be reasonable to take someone more on if it's possible.
Yeah.
Then the listing is first week of July, sorry. And we have the drill rig, two drill rigs going on site now, and then we will have another 2 coming in. So we be up and running within, say, mid-July, and then because we know how the core looks like. I mean, tin is not like gold; it's not highly disseminated. You can see it. Copper is the same, and we have a niton on site, so we can give the market updates. You know what the bits will be, and the possible grade plus minus 10% with the niton gives us good indication already. So we will have constant news flow, hopefully every 2 or 3 weeks, and then just be aggressive on the drilling side.
Sorry, Klaus, did you say that you're ready to go immediately on the drilling? Does that mean you have rigs booked and drill pads ready, etc.?
Everything is set up. The drill pads are ready to go. The drill rigs are ready to go. The guys are on site, and Jamie, our exploration manager, he lives in Lubumbashi, so he's a local. He doesn't fly in, fly out to Europe or anywhere else. He has a Congolese family there, so he lives permanently in the Congo.
Thanks, Klaus. So when would you have your first drill results coming through from site?
I think, probably end of July, we probably should have the first core visually examined and can give a market update, what the grades might look like, and also, the widths will look like.
Thanks very much for the little intro, Klaus, and wishing you the best of luck with the RTO. Maybe if you could just outline the opportunity here for investors once more before we wrap up.
Yeah, it's a tin play in a rising tin market, which is very important. And then you have also lots of interest in London. Naturally, it's a place who people like tin. So with the results coming through very quickly, from mid-July, end of July onwards, there will be certainly 6 months of high interest in that stock. And we're pretty sure that we will deliver everything what we expect there. What is also important, we have a major backer in London, which is Oak Securities, and if there's any interest, you should approach those guys. They're helping us very much in London. They've introduced us to a lot of potential investors, and they will be very happy to talk to you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Klaus Eckhof of Rome Resources. Look forward to hearing more from you soon.
Thank you, Sasha, for your time, and have a good afternoon.